Hello and welcome to this event, the GSA's plenary of the 4G-5G Fixed Wireless Access Forum. Before I hand over to our main speakers today, I'll quickly run through some housekeeping. There is an opportunity for you to ask questions throughout the event. Please use the Q&A tab you'll see on the right-hand side of your screen, pose any questions, and then the moderators for the regulator and operator panel and for the vendor panel will be able to use those as guidance and inspiration for the panel discussions that follow. You can download this presentation at any point during the event. If you just hover your mouse over the actual PowerPoint on your screen, you should see a little download cloud icon. Click on that and that should download the slides to your machine. We will also be sharing immediately after this event a link to the on-demand recording and to the slides on the GSA website. But with that, we'll jump straight into the agenda and I'll turn over to Joe Barrett, President of GSA, to kick things off. Joe.
Thank you, Richard. So this is just a quick slide. I'm sure you all know about GSA, but just in case you don't and you need a little bit more information. So we have been representing the global mobile ecosystem since 1998. 8 major industry executive companies make up our board. And our main focus is to report on and promote the 3GPP technology roadmap and member reports, free industry reports. But we have an extensive research team, which you'll hear from today, feeding into our unique industry database and platform, where all our data is stored. You can subscribe to that database if you're not a member. And we have probably the largest spectrum working group in the industry that are advocating, educating and supporting consultations with regulators around the world and government agencies around spectrum for 4G and 5G and eventually 6G. And a number of focus working groups, including this one, the fixed wireless access, but also private mobile networks as well. And we have close now to 90 companies who are subscribing to the database to get access to our data so they can utilize it themselves for their own work and their own material. So with no more ado, I'll pass over to Julian, who is chair of the Fixed Wireless Access Forum.
Thanks a lot, Joe. Warm welcome to what is now our 3rd edition. So it's the 3rd time we are having this kind of event organized by the forum. I am Julien Grivola. I am the chair of the forum for this year. And I am also the director of the Wireless Industry Development Department at Huawei. So we are very pleased to see that, I don't know why the screen has gone, but we are very pleased to see the strong momentum we see in those days behind 4G and 5G fixed wireless access. This is clearly one of the hot topics in the industry right now. In our previous events, we already highlighted the fact that fixed wireless access can be a life changer by ensuring the quick availability of strong and reliable wireless connectivity, broadband connectivity. As we all know, and according to the ITU, there are more than 3.7 billion people who still have no access to the broadband connectivity. And one of the lessons learned with the COVID-19 pandemic issues we have been facing and we are still facing is the fact that everybody really needs to have access to this broadband capability. So this mission of accelerating connectivity availability to all people is becoming even more critical every day. And actually, this is something very well recognized by many politicians and government and regulators. As you can see on the bottom part of the slide here, in Europe in particular, they are going to leverage the Recovery and Resilience Facility funds to really expand and provide broadband connectivity, which is considered now as a new commodity. And so for us, really, fixed wireless access has a critical role to play here, for sure. And we do see right now quite a few good deployment relying on 5G fixed wireless access that are really highlighting what we have been mentioning, like the quick time to market capability. For example, in the US with T-Mobile, they have reached the 1 million customer milestone in 12 months. But more importantly as well, they have added 10 million additional households covered in 12 months. So now there are 40 million households covered. This is true for developing and developed markets. In developing markets like in South Africa, this is also expanding quick. Access to 5G fixed wireless access with unlimited data and uncapped speeds, for example. We will also hear later on in the Middle East with the case of Oman Sultanate, where how important 5G fixed wireless access is becoming. We will hear as well from Du in the United Arab Emirates. So this is all good for us, and I mean we are very happy to see this progress, but still we are continuing to promote because we still see the need for education around what fixed wireless access can bring, both in terms of capabilities, but also in terms of choice of suppliers, the different CPE products available, the modules, the chipsets, all those capabilities. So this is with this in mind that at the end of 2020, several companies joined their hands and created the forum under the umbrella of the GSA. And we have all, these companies aligning behind these objectives that you can read here. And what is important is that this is really open to all companies involved in the fixed wireless access ecosystem supply chain. And we have our website available where you can really see all the things we are doing. Right now, we are 47 members. So we have increased significantly the number of members since we created this forum. We more than doubled, actually, our members, almost 3 times now. We have all key players represented in the infrastructure level, in the CPE domain, module, chipsets. You can see all the logos here. So this is really representing very well the fixed wireless access industry. And in line with our objectives that I mentioned just before, you can see that CPE vendors are still taking the lion's share in terms of representativity. In this slide, I wanted to really give a quick overview of all the different deliverables we have been providing over the last 12 months. I think probably most of you are familiar now with this fixed wireless access device ecosystem catalog. So basically here, all members have the ability to quickly introduce what they are doing, presenting a series of products on the CPE module and chipset side. We also developed the CPE survey in 2021. I think this was a very significant milestone for our organization. What it was aiming for, it was to really try to help the industry to understand the kind of size of the CPE market, how many shipments we see on an annual basis, what are the key trends we are seeing in this domain, in this market. Having in mind that 25 CPE vendors contributed, so it's not the global picture, okay? You need to keep this in mind, but you can get a sense of the size of the full market by looking at which vendors contributed to the survey, and then you can extrapolate what could be the global shipments. We also contributed recently at the beginning of this year to the European Commission Public Stated for Broadband Guidelines consultation. So we provided our input to represent the 4G-5G fixed wireless industry voice, if you wish. And actually, we welcome pretty much what the European Commission is working on. And we just highlighted a few facts like, maybe subsidies for CPEs will be very useful. Introducing and covering active equipment as well as passive equipment for fixed wireless access as part of the state aid policy would be a great move as well. And as you know, like today, we have those public events. And the last one was the end of October, focusing more on the Latin American market and the North American market. So today, we will follow the same kind of agenda as we did before. We will soon have Simon from the GSA and Dan from Strategy Analytics that will provide some market trends and explain to us what is the status of the fixed wireless access market globally. Then we will hear about some best practices from operators and regulators. So we have DO and Omantel on the service provider side, and we have Encom and TRA Bahrain on the regulator side. And at the end, I will come back to moderate a panel involving Fibocom, Quectel, and WNC. Finally, we will have the closing remarks from John Yasler, the vice chair of the forum. Now we will have quick videos, 1-minute videos from our sponsors that I would like to thank again, so Fibocom, Quectel, WNC. And so please, Richard, can you play the videos?
Technological innovations promote development. Intelligence connects everything. Wireless communication technologies will achieve multi-connectivity. As the 5G era unfolds, the advent of smart cities will exceed our wildest imagination. A new era of Internet of Things, IoT, is coming. Quectel modules and cloud products allow intelligent devices to collect and transmit information and develop omnipresent interconnectivity. Real-time comprehensive intelligent detection, alarms, and high-speed information transmission facilitate smooth communication between people and objects and between multiple objects. This is the result of a collaborative effort between a large number of Quectel products. Connect with the whole world from one place. An intelligent and interconnected life is just around the corner. Quectel, building a smarter world.
Technology is advancing daily, and the internet continues to transform our lives. Over the past 2 decades, we've strived to be a leading ODM and JDM industrial brand in the broadband communications, multimedia, and IoT industries by satisfying the needs of our customers. We continue to innovate, building upon our core technology capabilities in RF and antenna design and system integration, capitalizing on growth momentum in the market, offering the market unique solutions, and defining clear technology and product development roadmaps enable us to gain a stable footing in the global communications market. In this IoT era driven by hardware and software integration, we will continue to provide innovative solutions. We'll lead you to the next decade of communications.
Thanks a lot, Richard, for playing the videos, and many, many thanks again to our sponsors for supporting this event. I would like now to introduce Simon Bryant, who is in charge of the GSA research, to share the latest figures we have on fixed wireless access globally. Simon?
Thanks very much, Julian. Hopefully I'm coming through loud and clear. So it's nice to talk to you today. I've got 15 minutes where I would like to take you through some of the trends that the GSA research team see in fixed wireless access. What I'm going to try and give you a sense of is really the market status based on data from GSA. Give you a sense of the growth that we're seeing in this space. Looking at it from a devices perspective in terms of CPE devices, but also operator and their commitments around fixed wireless access. Giving some views on form factors and devices, 4G, 5G, and also country performance as well. And I'm going to try and get through that in 15 minutes. So let me move on my slide. The information that I'm going to be presenting today represents a sort of here and now view on the space, and it reflects what we see within the GSA's Gambod database, which has already been mentioned previously, and it's based on data that's up to date to the end of April. The Gambod database is updated monthly, and it includes a lot of information on brands, on operators, LTE 5G, chipset, spectrum bands, launch information, and some more information. We also produce a number of reports, which I'm drawing on today. Julian referenced some of these. One is our fixed wireless access market status report, and that's actually due later this month, and that's updated twice per year. And I'm drawing on some data today, which will be in that report. But that report will have some additional information on speeds that are offered by operators, the brands of devices, and also the tariff offerings of services around fixed wireless access. And there's the fixed wireless access survey, which Julian mentioned as well. And we are in the throes of completing that at the moment in terms of collecting input, but that will be available in the next month or so. We also have many other reports that refer to fixed wireless access development, including LTE to 5G, which was published last month and is updated on a quarterly basis. Our NTS statistics report, which is network services and technologies, updated monthly, and also 5G devices, which is updated monthly. And there are other reports as well. So fixed wireless access is a well-covered topic within our reporting within the GSA research team. So what can we see when we look at the market data from the GSA research? It is a story of growth, which this chart reflects here. On the right-hand side, you can see the number of devices in the purple bar that have been announced CPE devices, indoor and outdoor CPE devices. And in the blue bars, we're looking at fixed wireless access services that have been launched by operators globally. And what it tells us is that we see a 52% increase in the number of devices that have been announced by vendors on a year-on-year basis, 2021 to 2022, the other way around, and also a 10% increases in fixed wireless access services from operators as well. So it's a story of growth, and this is one way to track the market. There are other ways to track the market, but we can see in other data that we see as well, that even if you look at the consumer end in terms of connections, in terms of revenues, growth is incredibly strong. And this is a robust place for industry, including operators as well. So we're seeing connections grow very strongly as well. But what you're looking at here is a picture of investment and a picture of growth. And we're in a good place in terms of market traction for fixed wireless access. And there are various factors that we'll draw on a little bit within this presentation and in the report that's coming out as well, that are factors that are driving this market. But clearly an overarching theme is this is about residential and business broadband services, displacing existing smartphone-based products and services using dongles or smartphones, and becoming a serious and main residential and business broadband solution across all markets worldwide, and particularly within areas where we have weak fixed line broadband solutions. When we look at the overall investment in fixed wireless access services, it is very clear that fixed wireless access is very much global. The investment is global and the rollout is very much happening in all parts of the world. When we look at our data to the end of April, we saw that 621 operators are investing in LTE and 5G fixed wireless access. And that then turns into 516 operators that have actually launched services, which is 83% of that number have actually launched services. And we see a 6% growth year over year. So growth is slowing, but you can see in that chart, which is showing those services that have actually launched by country, operators that have launched, it's already reaching at certain levels a saturation point. So already we can see of 171 countries have now launched versus 186 that are investing in services. So already saturated at one level, but clearly service rollout and take up within those countries is another story, and there is much more to go in terms of adoption and rollout of fixed wireless access services. If we look at the LTE, fixed wireless access service situation, overall you can see that the top chart on the right there is looking at overall LTE service rollout. So we have 809 services by the end of April 2022, operators offering LTE services. And the chart does demonstrate that we are reaching a level of saturation. Although there are a further 168 operators that are investing in LTE networks, but haven't yet launched a service, which totals that figure mentioned on the left there, 977. So there is room for growth, but the chart would suggest we are reaching a point of saturation. But fixed wireless access is still growing very strongly, but also growing somewhat. So 430 operators had launched fixed wireless access services, which reaches a milestone of over a half of launched services. So of launched LTE services. So a milestone in itself. It's also worth highlighting moving forward that some of these LTE fixed wireless access services will be upgraded to 5G services. If we look now at 5G fixed wireless access in context, by the end of April 2022, 492 operators were investing in 5G across 149 countries, and 213 operators had launched one or more 5G services. And then of these, you can see 52 operators had invested in 5G fixed wireless access services, but hadn't actually launched services, while 85 operators had launched 3GPP compliant 5G fixed wireless access services, which represents 39% of those with launched 5G services. So what is the overall opportunity of 5G versus 4G fixed wireless access? Well, it is quite clear that existing LTE fixed wireless connections are expected to be upgraded to 5G connections. Some additional 5G fixed wireless adoption is expected, thanks to the additional bandwidth offered by next generation connectivity and a push by many operators. From an industry perspective, fixed wireless access also offers more value to operators than connections on 5G smartphones or other devices, with the premium stemming from the fact that one connection can feed several devices through Wi-Fi or Ethernet connectivity. So there is a real push from the operator community to push for 5G fixed wireless access services. When we look at 5G fixed wireless access by sub-region, generally there is a good spread across all regions, but it is dominated by EMEA, including Europe, Middle East, and Africa, with over 2/3 of the services that have been launched for 5G. And that is largely down to the number of countries and operators and services in those countries. Within those countries, however, it is clear that the US remains an important region in terms of the deployment of 5G fixed wireless access technology and services. Companies like Verizon and T-Mobile, and to a lesser extent AT&T, view fixed wireless access as an important feature in their 5G strategy. And we see that these companies are really driving connections in these markets. In China and India, we expect to see pockets of fixed wireless access, although operators are not currently vocal about this service, but clearly these regions will represent a significant opportunity in fixed wireless access growth moving forward. If we look at the growth in CPE devices, based on our Gambod database, you can see that 968 CPE devices were catalogued by the end of April. And this is still growing very strongly, so roughly 30 to 40% annually. Outdoor CPE is growing a little bit more strongly, but generally indoor and outdoor are growing strongly worldwide. So far the split in terms of the number of devices that we see in Gambod are 68% indoor, 32% outdoor, but outdoor seeing a little bit stronger growth. And LTE devices we see from 97 vendors in the Gambod database, which is up from 84 1 year ago, and 5G devices from 72 vendors. If we look at 5G CPE devices, we can see that there are 213 5G fixed wireless access devices being tracked in the Gambod database as of today. And that's up from 132 just over a year ago. 132 indoor, up from 83, 81 outdoor, up from 50 by the end of March last year. And we see announced 5G fixed wireless access CPE models up 61% in a year, and 120 that are currently commercially available. So in summary, what we're seeing in our GSA research is one of the most attractive uses for 5G fixed wireless access is because of the speeds that it offers, an alternative to cable or fiber connectivity. The additional bandwidth from 5G means that fixed wireless access can and is competing with cable broadband. And emerging and developed markets will both benefit from 5G fixed wireless access, particularly where fixed line infrastructure is uneconomical, difficult, or impossible to deploy. Even the most digital or digitized of countries struggle with deploying high-speed broadband connections for every home and business. In connections, its impact will be felt more in revenues than in units, but the growth will be strong over the coming years. On that note, I'd like to thank you for your attention, and I'm going to hand over to Dan from Strategy Analytics.
Thank you, Simon. I'm going to give a quick overview of operator success strategies for FWA, as well as some insights for policymakers on closing the digital divide. I'd like to start by classifying the players. All operators are not alike. When we talk about operator strategies, we have to distinguish what kind of operator we're talking about. A converged operator offers both fixed wireline and mobile services. Most of the world's tier 1s are converged operators. A converged operator may have separate strategies for inside and outside their traditional wireline footprint. A mobile operator offers mobile services but has no wireline assets. Examples of these include T-Mobile US and Rakuten. A fixed operator offers only fixed services. OpenReach and Lumen in the US are examples. There's a separate class of operators outside the traditional telecom industry, broadly characterized as wireless internet service providers, or WISPs. These primarily offer fixed wireless services. Most are local small businesses set up to meet the needs of their communities, or mid-sized businesses serving areas where they see opportunity. Municipalities and other community entities form WISPs to serve their communities where no private operator will. I mentioned these because some of them are joining the 3GPP ecosystem. Let's start with the wireline operators and the wireline converged operators, new and incumbent. For these entities, FWA is just a tool in the toolbox. Some, like internet, it's expensive to reach urban and rural customers inside their wireline footprint. Sometimes they do state regulatory regulations or as part of digital equity. Sometimes they use it just to defend against competitors like DSL businesses. Incumbent are varying degrees of copper to fiber transitions, which are going to take years, while customers need high. In the end, lighting areas market with FTTH. Australian wholesaler NBN and Telenor are using FWA in this manner. Some operators have areas where they don't deploy fiber, at least yet, and are replacing copper with FWA. For example, October that it would no longer take ADSL, instead will sell FWA wherever they are not deploying fiber. T-Mobile Germany and at least one operator that I cannot name are experimenting with millimeter wave to replace the drop portion of FTTH deployments to reduce the cost of serving homes that are hard to reach. Fixed and converged operators are using FWA to expand outside of their traditional wireline footprints. Verizon is an example. Their 5G home service is being marketed outside their territory, attacking markets historically served by AT&T and Lumen. Spectrum is an expensive asset, and licenses may cover large geographic areas. MNOs have to obtain enough to cover dense urban areas at peak hours, which means that in the surrounding suburban and rural areas and off-peak, much of that spectrum is a stranded asset. By offering fixed wireless service in these areas, they are able to utilize the spectrum. The beauty of it is that when fixed customers are served from mobile sites, incremental costs are incurred. Some post-market FWA areas the easy targets for MNOs are unserved and unserved homes. In fact, the French We Telecom offer FWA only in areas not served by fiber. In areas served with fiber and cable, MNOs by bundling services, by setting up competitive entertainment and services bundles, offering simply underpricing their fiber and cable services. For example, band in competition FTTH. Both of the major Emirati operators offer FTTH only in bundles, including internet, TV, and phone. Do cost half as much as a 500 megabit per bundle and no speed assurance. This would appeal to less well-off customers. Similarly, T-Mobile US are offering 5G plus free stream to their mobile customers for $30 per month, effectively half the going rate for fiber and cable broadband in the U.S. This deal helps with ads and churn for mobile service, drives plan upgrades, incremental revenue. We've been hearing a lot from operators about these kinds of bundle offers. FWA operators, especially MNOs, are in a better position to fight price wars than FTTH operators because lower initial capex cost of wireless means less depreciation and possibly less debt, higher operating revenues despite lower ARPA. The competitive opportunity for mobile operators to attack fixed incumbents with FWA is not just about pricing. Many customers hate their monopoly service providers, making them ripe for pickup by new market entrants. The combination of low pricing and an alternative to their current provider in that order is the main reason customers switch to FWA. On top of that, FWA operators can allocate network slices to offer services over FWA. For example, Mobility is running an FWA slicing Riyadh to offer multiple service tiers and services to residential and business customers. We think that slicing is one of the most benefits of 5G, and the context will be a big opportunity for operators. WISPs provided basic internet access to many rural and some urban communities for decades. They serve customers that would otherwise connect with DSL or satellite. Many are locally owned small businesses with lots of community goodwill. However, they operate on a shoestring and can't always provide the most reliable service. WISPs are now facing competitive threats from mobile operators and FTTH. I mention WISPs here because some of them are looking for GP solutions instead of or in addition to Wi-Fi-based and proprietary technology. And some of those are also offering mobile services. Some WISPs are selectively deploying FTTH infrastructure. Sorry about that. Turning to policy, FWA has an important role in closing the digital divide. Fiber is in many broadband technology, and if money were no object, everyone would have fiber. But policymakers should not let the perfect be the enemy of the good. The objective is to optimize the broadband experience for the whole population within the constraints of appropriated funding, as well as financial targets like time to positive cash flow. The broadband divide is not truly closed if some of the unserved become overserved. I would think about this in terms of three buckets. For those in denser areas with less per home passed, there is a business case for fiber. For higher cost areas with low densities, and some buildings in urban centers, there may be no business case for fiber, but there is one for FWA. And finally, for very isolated premises, there might be no business case for FWA either, and LEO satellite may be the only practical option. Deciding which locations in a particular community go into which bucket is a modeling exercise with lots of input variables. The general idea is to assign life cycle cost to each premise for each technology. Put all of them into the FTTH bucket and then iteratively spill the highest cost homes from the FTTH bucket to the FWA bucket, and the highest cost homes from the FWA bucket into the satellite bucket, until the area comes in on budget. It's not really that simple, but you get the idea. In summary, how does FWA fit into operator success strategies in closing the broadband divide? It can be just a tool in the tool, a way for operators to enter incremental for mobile infrastructure and spectrum, a placeholder for fiber, a low-cost, low-price solution for conscious consumers, or fiber for the most expensive to reach premises. Thank you for your attention, and I apologize for the video. I'm going to turn it over to Joe Barrett for our next session.
Thank you, Dan. I must apologise. We had a few problems with the quality of the speech there, but unfortunately, nothing we could do about it at the time. I hope it didn't really too much for you. But if you need any questions, follow up, then please let us know over email, and we'll see if we can get Dan to respond to you as well. And you can also ask questions in the question box. So there's been a few questions come in already. That's good. So now we have the operator and regulator panel, where we look at fixed wireless access best practices. We have DU, Encom, Omantel, and the regulator from Bahrain in this session. A few presentations to start off with. So I will open with the first presentation, and I'll let Ahmed introduce himself and the panels when they come to present. So please, Ahmed, if you'd like to start with your slides.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Good morning, good evening, based on your time. In this short presentation, we'll cover our 5G FWA deployment, how we have started with FWA as the first commercial use case over the 5G. Next, please. Okay, sorry. I have slides management, and I thought you will. Okay, this slide, it show how the network and network evolution and ecosystem readiness from market side and from telecom operators also. This comparison, it shows how we ended with number of 5G networks. By end of 22, we end up with 124 5G networks globally, and by end of last year, end of 21, we end up with almost 200 5G networks across the globe. In terms of 5G smartphones availability and ecosystem readiness, we end up with 162 handsets by end of 22, and end of last year we have ended up with almost 4 times of this number, with 614 5G smartphones available in the market, and for sure the numbers are increasing. In terms of 5G users across the globe, we end up with almost 230 millions by end of 22, and by end of last year, we ended up with more than 705 million 5G users in terms of FWA network, now let's focus mainly in FWA since this forum focus on FWA. End of 2020, we end up with 44 FWA network available and product available across the globe, and by end of last year we end up with almost 81 FWA network and FWA commercial launch across the UAE, almost 84% increment in this domain. Even if we can check also the price for the smartphone, yes, it's not CPE to consider it for FWA, but the smartphone itself, it's increasing in terms of number of availability, but the price and the cost for it, it's decreasing over the years. Maybe when we started our 5G network deployment mid of 2018, the handset cost, it's around $1,000 or less than $1,000. But now we can find a 5G handset with almost $150, and even the CPE price is reaching to this range also. Next, in terms of spectrum, we know without availability of a spectrum and deciding what's the best fit and best spectrum for your deployment, I think we cannot match the equation and make excellent formula in terms of serving our customers. In terms of IMT requirements, yes, there's throughput and peak throughput requirements. There's also coverage, penetration, and 5G footprint. In terms of latency, there is also a requirement. But from our side as operator, yes, we need also to select the best spectrum which will serve the FWA use case. We know the FWA users, they are heavy users, and the product itself, the nature of product itself, it's hungry data driven a product. From our side, yes, we need to select the spectrum which can offer high capacity, which will serve the FWA users, and even this basic requirement, the high capacity. Second requirement, the spectrum, it should serve the indoor users. It's meaning the spectrum that we are going to select, it should penetrate deeply indoor. From our side, when we have selected our spectrum, we have, I will not say plenty of choices, but a few choices. We started our 5G deployment with the C-band with the 3.6 to 3.700 megahertz bandwidth. We started also, and after a short time, we have introduced also the lower mid-band. It's meaning a spectrum which will somehow give more penetration to more indoor users. We have selected the 2.6, and we have also capacity of bandwidth. In terms of bandwidth, we have 100 megahertz also. And in the future, we are going also, we have planned to select lower band from FDD in order to improve the uplink experience. For FWA, yes, we have the spectrum and we selected the right spectrum for our users and our use case. In addition to spectrum, we need to have tools help us to serving our customer in best way. For sure, our network having both customers, having normal MBB users and having also the FWA users. When I'm saying MBB users, it's normal handset users. From our side, having two different kind of customers and users and not in one network, it's I'll not say tricky. However, you need to tackle these two products and give more priority to most important users for you. From our side, who's giving us more ARPU, for sure the handset or mobile users. Giving a priority and deploying features from network side in terms of giving more weight over the QCI deployment, over SPID deployment. For sure, it will help differentiate and give more priority to the mobile users. However, giving matching or low profile or little bit throughput to or little bit quality of service to the FWS users, which will not impact overall experience. It's also an excellent and mix and match solutions that we are giving to our users. For having tool in place which will support us to getting more insight about customers, how much he's getting in terms of throughput, in terms of camping ratio, how much our customer spend over our 5G network compared to the 4G. Yes, it will lead us also to other questions. Is the customer getting adequate 5G coverage? Maybe he's sitting inside in deep indoor. That's why he's not getting adequate 5G. Having a right tool on a place, it will support us to identify the need for our customers. Also, implementing the AI and more algorithms in terms of 5G experience overall, and for specifically the FWA users, it will help also improving the experience and even giving priorities to the customers during the rush hour or busy hour. Doing all of these jobs manually, for sure, very difficult and almost impossible. So having automation and AI on the top will sort and will support us during this issue. As a normal product start with the acquisition and grabbing customers, and after that it will go to the nurturer phase, and after that loyalty. If we are giving good experience and acceptable experience to our customers during the acquisition, we need to be precise about our dimension and capacity requirement and how we will evolve in terms, as I mentioned, in terms of spectrum selection, and after that having the right tool to understand our customers more, and even consider the downlink and uplink requirements, because we know the fact we are giving more priority to the downlink for such a product. However, uplink is very important also for certain use cases and certain nature of use by our customers. During the nurture, yes, we need to improve the satisfaction and improve our ARPU for this product and the customers who are using our product. Accordingly, we need to do more automation and remote configuration to grab the loyalty for our customer and keep it attached with our network and with our product also. Even having one system, one tool which give you more differentiation and give you more visibility for FWA users is essential in this phase. And after that, if the customer is getting the right expectation and getting whatever he wants, for sure he will be loyal to you and to your company. This is the last slide, and maybe I can say the main slide. Our understanding on 5G spectrum utilization and refarming some of the existing spectrum to serve the demand of FWA and demand also of 5G use cases. Currently, we, as I mentioned, during our 5G launch, our 5G network launch, we have selected the C-band, and we have 200 megahertz over the C-band. We started the deployment with the first 100, and we have added the second carrier, which is the second 100 over the C-band in specific location where we having a lot of capacity requirement, and most of our customers, they are basing in certain hotspot or cell. Even we have introduced also the N41 spectrum, and we have almost 100 also in this spectrum. And we are using the 2.6 or the N41. We use it in external coverage and give more penetration to the external or outer sites to give more coverage consideration to our users. Yes, we have the green. We have our the 3G, the UMTS. It's over the 2.1 and also over the 900 megahertz. In the short term, between this year and the coming 2 to 3 years, we are planning to utilize the 200, the full 200 for our 5G network, and also utilizing the full 2.6 for also our 5G network, and also consider the DSS, the dynamic spectrum sharing, for transition period for the 2.1, and use it as FDD, because you know the FDD it will give you more penetration to the indoor user and give more availability of your 5G device, for 5G coverage to your 5G users. And after that, beyond the 25, we are planning to introduce more millimeter wave spectrum, almost 26 gigahertz, and additional layer to support our 5G and 5G deployment. Also having a lower band on 700 or on 1900 megahertz to support our 5G footprint and serving also our indoor users. This end of my presentation. And thank you for the attention.
Thank you very much. So moving quickly, there have been a few questions. We'll pass those on, and hopefully they can be answered over email if we get a chance at the end of the session here. Moving now to Espen Slette, please, from Encom.
Thank you so much, and thank you for having us and letting us provide some insights from Norway. I call this presentation The Last Frontier, providing high-speed internet to all households. And as we heard earlier as well from Dan, 5G fixed wireless access is a great possibility in order to provide high-speed internet access to those hard-to-reach households. So I'll come into that a little bit. Firstly, I just wanted to provide you some insights in the model that we're using in Norway. Oops, I can't see the presentation anymore. There we are. First of all, we want to have as little regulation as possible to provide an investment-friendly regulation to harvest broadband build-out. That is very important. We don't want to regulate more than necessary. And also, the level of cooperation is important. In Norway, mostly broadband rollout is provided by the market itself. It's commercially driven, and it's a little state aid in order to provide high-speed internet access. But of course, being Norway, a country with high mountains and steep fjords, there is a need for public money or local public money in order to provide internet access to those hard-to-reach households. So there is two sides of this, but mostly high-speed internet access is built out with commercial interests in Norway. The political ambition is that everyone shall have high-speed internet access by the end of 2025. And by high speed, that is 100 megabit downlink and 10 megabit uplink. And that is, of course, just a portion or a part of the way, right? We want to go to gigabit speeds eventually, but this is kind of the midterm goal. Currently, we are on good track. 90% of all households in Norway do have access to 100 megabit, and 87% have access to fiber or gigabit speeds. It's important to talk about these numbers because, as Dan also mentioned, fixed wireless access will be kind of the solution either to provide resilience to these current households or to provide access to those hard-to-reach households. Today, mostly the deployment is done as convergence between internet and TV offers. That's what we've seen so far. But also in a fresh report that was recently made in Norway, we could see that if accelerated deployment, and they have projected that if you have kind of follow the same route as today, you will have gigabit speeds to everyone by 2035. But if you can accelerate that by 10 years, you will actually gain a socioeconomic gain of 75 billion Norwegian kroners. That's 7.5 billion euros, which is a lot. And the cost of actually providing 100% fiber access to everyone is only, and I say only in square brackets there, 16.6 billion kroners. But if you do that with 4G, 5G fixed wireless access instead, it will be only 3 billion kroners. So you can see there's a huge benefit of providing high-speed internet access to all in Norway. And not all this is commercial gain, it's social economic gain, it's the gain for the society as a whole. So in some extent, that is something that the government itself needs to pay for. So going into 5G, in 2021, we had an auction in Norway providing the full 3.6 or the C-band spectrum to the operators. The C-band has actually been available since 2015 in Norway, at least 200 megahertz of it. But last year, the full 400 megahertz were made available for the MNOs. And 5G is important because you see there's a convergence now between mobile and fixed broadband rollout. And Dan was talking about the same earlier as well. But what we did in that auction, we said that up till 560 million Norwegian kroners from the auction revenue could be deducted from the MNO's price in order for them to roll out high-speed internet access to underserved households in Norway. And what we try to achieve with that is to provide internet access to those hard-to-reach households in Norway. As you saw earlier, there was 10% that didn't have access to high-speed internet, and now we want to attack those and try to provide those with high-speed internet access, and this is one of the options. So what we did is that we checked all the households in Norway that didn't have high-speed internet access. We took away those we thought could be commercially interesting for the operators because they might be close to existing fiber installations or be within the reach of existing base station, and there could be a lot of households within that base station, so they could use the existing infrastructure in order to provide high-speed internet access to a lot of households. When we did that, we set back with 50,000-ish households in Norway, which we defined as not commercially attractive enough for the operators to roll out 5G or 4G in those households within the next few years. And then we provided those into 3 different groups. One group was those who cannot be reached from existing infrastructure. Those got the highest fixed amount for providing internet access to those households. And then we saw, okay, some households can be reached from existing infrastructure, but there's just not enough households there to make it commercially attractive. And those got another amount for those households. And with that solution, that we hope that the MNOs who acquired spectrum in the auction will provide internet access to even more households in Norway. So we are even closer to providing or getting it to that goal of 100% internet access to all by 2025. In addition, there is state-aided broadband deployment as well. The state provides approximately 300 million euros a year in order to provide access to the same underserved households. So there's kind of 2 different solutions here to provide internet access. Lastly, I just also wanted to mention that 5G is not only fixed wireless access for households, it's also for verticals and industries, and they may have other needs than households. They could have more uplink capacity needs than households, other security demands, for instance. So what we did in the same auction that we provided, or the MNOs have an obligation to provide access for industry and enterprises in that band. But then the industry needs to provide feedback back to the MNOs that they have a specific need and for using that exact frequency band. If they're not able to provide an agreement, the industry and the MNOs, we, as the regulator, can act as a mediator in order to try to fix that issue. But there is some possibilities, and I mentioned that earlier as well. They might have different frame structure needs, higher uplink demands, or other demands that will not be able to be solved within the MNO spectrum at all. So we also provided the 3.8 to 4.2 gigahertz spectrum for private and non-public networks. So you can come now to Norway if you want to test out your solution in that band, and you can get access to spectrum in order to test out non-public networks. And what we see and gladly see is that EU is now following. Last year, there came a mandate from the European Commission to CEPT to actually study the same thing, with a deadline in March 2024. So hopefully the 3.8 to 4.2 gigahertz band could be the band for verticals and industries within Europe. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Espen. There was just one quick question, and we've got time for that. Could you elaborate on what are the productivity gain measures? What KPIs are being used by government agencies when estimating the gains for deploying wireless like 5G?
Can you repeat that question, Joe? I couldn't really hear it.
What are the KPIs, the key performance indicators that you are looking for from deploying wireless technologies like 5G? So what are the key?
Okay, so for the solution that I had described earlier, the operators are obliged to provide 100 megabits downlink and 10 megabit uplink speeds for 95% of the time. That's kind of the KPI that we have set forth for the 5G deployment.
Okay, thank you. Good, thank you for that. So thank you. We move now quickly on to Omantel and Dr. Ali Al-Ashmi. Please, your slides.
Thank you very much for giving me opportunity to present the Omantel story in terms of FWA. Before we started, I'm using my mobile, so I couldn't access from the laptop due to the, I don't know, maybe sometimes Omantel putting high security to access all the websites. Anyway, just to give you a brief about Oman. Oman is almost twice larger than UK in terms of area, with a population of 4 million plus minus. So if you compare the population with the area they distributed or discarded, it's one of the biggest challenge in terms of providing services. It's not like only telecommunication. Talk about the electricity, roads, water, and other things. So telecommunication is not far from those services. So we're really having a problem. And then the geographical difficult terrain is another problem we have. Away from people scattered, you will find people on the top of the mountains, just 2-3 houses. The other people is down to the valley. The other people is in the middle of the desert of nowhere. They're using even generators. So you'll find a lot of difficulties. On top of that, you will have another issue which recently becoming an issue, but it's an opportunity. I will call it a business opportunity. When the COVID started, everybody should work from home, online learning, schooling, and everything. That was a booster, I would say, for the FWA. I think maybe all of you will agree with me. That's one of the booster, because it was the initial stage of launching FWA. With the business case is a bit shy, but the COVID boosted instead of make it negative. So things like we work like, sorry to say, we work like an undertaker. Someone's died, it's a job for me. Anyway, back to the story. We are monopoly used to be the monopoly because we used to incumbent. We used to be the monopoly in the copper cables, and I think most of the country used to have the same. But the copper cable with the ADSL technology didn't really serve the purpose of the demand, the high-speed demand. And then putting a fibers everywhere, the cost, plus on top of the cost is not a matter of financial more than the fast to deploy. Fiber will take you ages, especially with the mountains and the scattered areas. So the only thing was 5G. 5G was like the only solution for us. By the way, we started the wireless broadband before the 5G. If you remember, we started using the low band 23 or 2.3 TDD, and then we tried to monetize on the LTE network. It's costing us a lot of confusion of managing the customers, because few customers of home broadband, they're more than enough to make the mobile site congested. So if you can mix the mobile customers with the fixed customers, immediately will end up of a different equation, which not easy to come out of it. For example, during the COVID, some of the sites were not 5G ready. We got an instruction from the regulatory. We have to open our network, our LTE FDD for the mobile customers to use it for fixed. We had some site used to be like 50% utilization. When we allowed the fixed customers, 4 or 5 customers, they are more than enough to make that site congested. Because the home broadband applications are not compressed compared to, for example, if you're watching a YouTube on your phone, it's different compression rate compared to the 56-inch TV at home, plus maybe 3 or 4 TVs plus. So we really putting our network in risk, and we try to expedite 5G. So this is one of the key elements on that. And then the other way around, when we started the 5G, it was the business case itself, it was a bit shy. Because if you look at the MBB was few handsets, and it was a bit of give and take between operators and the handset manufacturer like Samsung and iPhone. It's like, okay, I will activate this particular model, but I will not activate the earlier model because allow people to buy a new model instead. It's becoming a lot of ping pong between us and the manufacturer. It's not a single man play with the operator. No, it's even the handset manufacturer becoming a stakeholder in this 5G. So this is another. If you can swap to another slide, please. So what we have done, as I explained to you, the 5G, we marketed in a way that 5G is a fiber-like speed. So this is the only way to convince a customer, don't wait for the fiber. This 5G is giving you the same speed as the fiber. So this is one of the things. Another thing, we keep telling them, don't worry about the CPE. The CPE will be part of the offer, so you just pay the monthly rate with, for example, a contract with them. And then the bundle offers, which we can say, for example, that the gamings and other things added additional value on top of what we have in the 5Gs. We have to go beyond the connection. It's not like you're giving a connection. That's it. Try to add more things to attract the customer. First of all, to change the mindset of people. The bandwidth or the speed delivered to a house, it doesn't mean fiber. It could be any media. That took us some time to convince people that don't wait for fiber or wireless. They lost trust on fiber and wireless for many reasons. Because we used to have 20 on the band of 23, like 10 megahertz, it's barely people getting 3-4 meg. So they lost trust on wireless. To build that trust, to change the people mindset about the 5G was one of the challenge we found it. And then from the operator perspective, do it right at the first stage. If you're gonna be wrong at the first stage, finish that. The customer perception is already there in their head. You cannot change it for life. So this is one of the things, and thanks God we have done it in the right way, and we proved that this is the 5G as a solution to the country. And then we used a lot of outdoor CPEs. We used to have even an agreement between us at technology, because we are from the technology and the commercial team. We would like to have a plug and play. Give someone a modem, an indoor modem from any Omantel outlet, go home and just plug and play. But we found out within the 500 meters, you can 700 meters roughly, safe to say so, plug and play. After that, you have to have an outdoor CPE. So there is additional cost because the technician has to visit the house of the customer, installing an outdoor antenna with a high gain. And then, thanks God, we extended the coverage map. So even our coverage map for the sales teams, they have two types of coverage map. Indoor coverage map, which is plug and play, just get the modem. An outdoor coverage map, so the technician has to visit, with the cost of CPE is a bit like double compared to the indoor. If you go to the next slide, please. As I mentioned to you, now the only thing is to convince the customer is, if you're going to sign 2 years contract, I will give you additional things. Online gamings, I don't know, National Geographic, putting a lot of things on that, giving the customers more opportunities. Some of the customers already completed 2 years, they're asking for more. Compared to the initial offers, and what offers we have even becoming 3-4 times better than before, because we increase a lot of, for example, the packages. We are now the package of 600 GB per month, 600 GB per month and open speed. Marketing team was challenging us, no, we don't have to make it open speed. We are from technology, always that. This such of challenge within the organization is a very constructive criticism, which you are, in a way, building better things for the customers. We said, if we're gonna limit the speed, you're gonna compromise the 5G characteristic or the main features of the 5G. Open it, control the GBs per month. If you're giving someone a 600 GB per month, barely he's gonna finish it. So we did an average is around 400 GB per month. So we give an additional 200 GB. So it's unlimited GBs, unlimited speed. So this is end of the war between us, technology, and the commercial, for the benefit of the technology itself to shine up. Otherwise, don't kill the technology at the first stage. You trying to monetize more or get the revenue faster. For the long run, it might harm you a lot. So try to get the best features from the technology. This is what the lesson learned we got from the first initiative. Can you go to the next slide, please? Out of that, as I explained, the growth, believe me, was like 5 times in 1 year. So the growth jumped. And then the wireless customers, with the use fixed wireless customers earlier, we migrate them from the LTE network to 5G. Almost we already done 70% of them, they're already in the 5G. There's projects ongoing now to move all of them to move them all of them to 5G for many reasons. They caused the mobile network, LTE network congestion, adding additional trouble to put the equation together. So that's why any site has a fixed customer running on LTE network, we're putting a 5G to move them. The growth 5% or 5 times, that's true, and is not exaggerate the numbers because of the COVID, as I explained to you. COVID boosted. People got the trust out of it. The only drawback we got is some of the sites we have some interference. People bit of noise, or we get an internet and then disconnected, but the interference is there everywhere. So sometimes we try to coordinate with our neighbors to reduce the interference internationally, interference within the site itself between north side and this, because the only problem when we are using 3.5 C band TDD, the synchronization is a bit traveling in a higher rate. This is another problem here. But overall, we are doing very good in the 5G, and the things are moving as per the plan. And we expected to cover almost 70% of the populated area in Oman by end of this year. 70% of the populated area. But I have to caution you something. We already had it, and whenever if you look at the selection criteria of putting aside, we always thinking about 5G, put it in the area where the low copper, people hasn't got network, they need fix, put the 5G. So the selection criteria mainly driven by fix. But you will find one problem. The main city centers or the main area where the FTTH is available will not have a 5G. So you will end up the big cities which has fiber will not have 5G. So cautious for that area, because you need 5G for the MBB and branding and customer perception and all of this. You will get a call that a village has a 5G, people can use mobile 5G, but the capital itself or the big cities hasn't got 5G. What's going on with Omantel? So we nowadays, we try to balance. We started with the FWA mainly as a main driver, but now we start going with the MBB, installing 5G sites in the area where the FTTH is there. We're expecting even those villages, whatever areas, even those areas hasn't got fiber, will have fiber eventually. By that time, it's an easy. You take the traffic of the FWA, migrate them to the fiber, which is the ultimate goal, leave that site to grow in the MBB perspective instead of upgrading LTE network. Let it be an MBB or the mobile broadband site, because the same site it can save fixed and mobile customers. Can you go to the next slide, please? Now the way forward or the future. We have done a lot of trials before even starting with the C-band. We said, let's go beyond the normal FWA with the C-band. We start testing the millimeter wavelength. In the millimeter wavelength, we use the band N58B, which is the 26 gigahertz 0.5 to 27 gigahertz 0.5. We achieve tremendous good results. We can achieve up to 1.2 gigabits at the 4 kilometers. This is the C-band cannot do. When you extended features, there's another features we worked out with the vendors, they call it extended features. We achieved up to 516 megabits at the 6.5 kilometers. So instead of, will help you instead of building more sites, the extended feature with the millimeter wavelength, you can achieve the demand speed required by the corporate. This is the corporate or the enterprise. Normally they go with the speed beyond the normal household. Before I finish my presentation, there is another thing we have to think about is the skills required. Because now we thought about homes and we talk about a bit shy numbers of the enterprise, but the 5G specifically for FWA, when we club it with the AI and IoTs, it's going beyond the normal connections. It's going, for example, I'll give you an example. If we're gonna have to supply IoT in oil field company, we have to understand how the oil field companies, we have to understand how the seaports operate. So, for example, I'm a telecom engineer. I have to ask a petroleum engineer, what is the oil flow, the gas flow, what's the sensor, what the pressure, what is that? I don't understand. This is related to the petroleum engineer. But they have to understand all of that in order for us to provide a real comprehensive IoT solutions for them. Similar, go to the port. You have to understand the crane management, the operation of the cranes, the port operation, everything within the seaport to provide a proper solution. So there is a lack between verticals or the industries and the telecommunication companies. I will group them in the middle, call it ICT. So ICT, this is a new thing we have to think about in terms of skills, I think. By that, I finish my presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you. There was, I think, one or two questions. If you could mind answering them in the chat, that would be excellent. Thank you for the questions. So just for everybody's information, these slides will be online at 12:15 Central European Time today on the GSA website, gsacom.com, and this is being recorded, and so we will be sending you the link afterwards. Now we go to the regulator in Bahrain for their fixed wireless access experience. Please carry on.
Thank you, Joe. Thank you very much. and thank you, GSA, for having me here in this forum. This will give me the opportunity to share Bahrain's experience with fixed wireless access and 5G. So if we move, Joe, to the next slide. So just to, yeah, that's what I'm gonna basically try to give some or shed some lights on today. So if we move to the next slide, so starting with few indicators here, a few market indicators. So we have 11 ISPs in Bahrain, including 3 MNOs. The percentage of population covered with 5G is 100% in Bahrain. We have broadband, total broadband penetration rate, fixed and wireless, both at 142%. The fixed wire, the fiber broadband penetration is at 10%, and the total mobile broadband penetration is 130%, 131%. When we talk about total mobile broadband, it includes what we call the fixed wireless access that's now being provided on mobile networks by mobile operators, by MNOs, and also the handset data, mobile data that is, and what we call it, data added to voice. So basically that's the total mobile broadband. Now, if we look at the graph on the right, that's quite interesting for Bahrain, because it shows that the fixed wireless access, what we call here the standalone mobile. So in this one, it's not like the penetration rate that's on the left. In this one, we are excluding the mobile added to voice. So we're just comparing the main broadband that's served from fixed location over this LTE or 5G or mobile networks. So that's standalone in green, compared to the fixed, which is copper or fiber. It was kind of, or it has been dominating the number of fiber or let's say broadband connections in Bahrain all over, and still. However, we can notice that from the years of 2016, 17, and 18, this percentage started to decrease. So, i.e., the fixed wireless access started to have a bit of a decline here. And the reason for this is basically the take-up of fiber in Bahrain that started after 2016. As you might be aware, in Bahrain, we had and we have an initiative, the government initiative that started in 2016 by creating an NBN, by setting up a vehicle, by separating the incumbent, which is Betelco, into 2 companies, the retail company, which is still Betelco, and creating the wholesale arm of Betelco, split into a separate company called BNet now, which is a wholesale only company that owns the infrastructure, fixed infrastructure, and that offers all these fiber-based services to all operators in Bahrain. So that vehicle, that BNet, that NBN, has been mandated the responsibility of laying down the fiber in Bahrain since 2016. But the creation of BNet, the plan came actually out in 2016, but the creation of BNet itself came out in 2019, June 2019 exactly. That's why we can see from 2018, 2019, that thing of fiber really accelerating in terms of higher coverage and higher penetration. And that's why we see also a reduction in fixed wireless access. So people, they get their connection of fiber, they started just to move from fixed wireless access and LTE and 5G broadband to fiber connection. Now, moving to the next slide, Joe. So basically, I mean, speaking of the government objectives when it comes to basically the government policy towards broadband, both fixed and wireless, we can see that Bahrain has been focusing on promoting both. So here, these 3 statements I'm quoting from the National Telecom Plan, the 5th version, which was issued, I guess in October, if I'm not mistaken, October 2020. So the first 2 pillars basically is focusing on fixed, connecting 95% of households with fiber, all the time and connecting businesses with 100% fiber. So that's basically on the fixed side. Now, also and equally, Bahrain has also kind of, or the government has also an objective of promoting the fixed wireless and the 5G basically services by stating that the majority target of all consumers, or let's say majority of consumers in Bahrain to get access to 5G networks, which happened basically. We achieved that in 2022 by having this 100% coverage of 5G. I mean, just commenting on what my colleagues have mentioned from Oman and from other also operators and regulators, they have actually mentioned the importance of the 5G and the fixed wireless access during the pandemic. So those underserved areas actually really have been really utilizing the 5G and the fixed wireless access network to get their kind of life going with the online education and with the work from home and with all these remote kind of business activities that people need to carry on in terms of shopping, in terms of getting medicines, in terms of doing all the activities. Equally important in Bahrain, for example, during the pandemic, and I guess also in other countries, we started to deploy remote locations to have these quarantine places, or to have some testing centers, or to have some vaccination centers, and these have been deployed newly in some, let's say, separate areas in Bahrain. Those also needed some connections, and fixed wireless access was a good thing to really support these kind of activities. So the importance of really fixed wireless access to complement the fixed was really something evident during the pandemic. Jumping to the next, Joe. Yeah, thank you so much. So on this page, it's just again, I mean, elaborating more on the government policy and maybe the TRA's role and regulatory role and supporting the government policy and implementing the fixed wireless access 5G. I guess here few main initiatives that we have taken as a TRA with the government and coordination with the government in this. So speaking of, for example, deployment of efficient infrastructure 5G. TRA has been really promoting and encouraging operators, the site sharing of operators to make sure that the cost effectiveness of the deployment. We can see that the site sharing has gone up from 14% back in the 2014-15 days until now it reached in 2021, 22%. In terms of also Bahrain being ready for the next phases of 5G when it comes to IoT and low latency services. TRA has issued its plan for this year that it will work with relevant stakeholders basically to come up with a national strategy to see the future needs basically for this second and third phases of services. We are aiming to finish this plan by end of this year. Again, availability of 5G, we made the spectrum, the C-band available in the early of 2019. The services of 5G were launched in Q1 2019, and now we reach the coverage of 100%. Next, I think that's it for the slide. Next slide, Joe. So I guess in this slide, and it's the last slide, I think we wanted to just share, let's say, with you some few topics that we think that can be topics for this forum to think of, to discuss between the experts of the GSA and really the fixed wireless access experts. And not necessarily that we have the answer for, or there is a right or wrong answer for, but it's just, I guess it's a good takeaway thoughts to end this session with. So on the market perspective, I mean, to start with, there's always this talks about really the competition, the substitution between fixed and wireless, whether they are complement, whether they are substituted, whether they are really competing with each other. And then why we say this, especially in Bahrain. Bahrain is a small country. It's covered mainly by fixed wireless back in the days, and now we have 78% fiber penetration. So we have high kind of, that's not penetration, sorry, that's a coverage, 78% coverage of fiber. So we have high percentage coverage of fiber. We're seeing here, is there really a case for fixed wireless access in those areas that is covered by fiber? Because everybody's talking about fixed wireless access in the areas that's underserved or not served with fixed access, as our colleagues just also mentioned in their presentations. But what we're saying here, what will be the case for the fixed wireless access in the areas where the fiber is really kind of does exist? So that's something, I guess, whether they could be kind of be offered by operators as a redundant services, as a backup services for businesses, for example. Is that something that operators can think of? Our colleague from Omantel and other operators as well. That's something, I guess, is really something to think of. Now, also in Bahrain, if we jump to point number 2, if you saw the news last week, we have issued a new license to Starlink, which is a satellite broadband provider. So I'd say adding to the game satellite broadband providers with the fixed wireless access, given also you have the fiber and fixed broadband providers. So I mean, as a regulator, on one hand, generally speaking, adding more competition to the market is good for the benefit of consumers. However, again, for fixed wireless access, is it really that, given the fiber, and I'm talking about Bahrain's case, but this can be, thought of in terms of other jurisdictions as well. If you have a fixed wireless access provider that's competing with fixed, and also there is now a satellite broadband provider, what will be the opportunities for the fixed wireless access given this kind of structure in the market? The third point, I guess, that we also see as a potential challenge or a hot topic that we are also discussing at the TRA is basically the investment case for operators to really move for the future from non-standalone as they start to deploy their 5G network to have, are they ready to move to the standalone 5G? Are they having the use case, the investment case to move to this? That's also something that's being discussed, I guess, with the industry. Also, we can hear also the talks about other network elements that needed to really support the fixed wireless access technology. So we're talking here about fiber backbones and front-haul services. In Bahrain, we are focused on this by basically, having BNet, which is the wholesale-only provider, providing such services to MNOs, and we're working closely in reviewing these services from time to time that BNet offers to MNOs to make sure that this 5G and the advanced 5G services and fixed wireless services are supported with the required elements of the network, basically. So that's something we have discussed and we are working on, and we've worked on that aspect. The last bit is basically the availability of the required spectrum. Our colleague also mentioned the next wave, the what we call it, the millimeter 5G waves, next future, basically version of 5G. What will be the required spectrum, not only now, even for the future? I guess this aspect as well needs to be, and it's a hot topic that also is being discussed heavily here and at TRA and within the industry. That's it from my side, and thank you.
Thank you. So just going to finish off, I want a couple of questions to finish off the session. So maybe coming back to Bahrain regarding the millimetric wave, as you mentioned, and then also maybe asking the same question of Esben from regarding your difficult situation. How important is millimetric wave going to be over the next 5 years? Maybe from the Bahrain perspective first.
Yes. I believe, to be honest, that thing is very important, and that's why I guess that the hot topic that we're discussing now. What we are doing, Joe, to address this is to basically to consult with the industry on really what will be the forecast for the demand of such services in the future. Actually, there's a mandate by the government to give a 5-year kind of forecast plan from now till 5 years. That's literally mentioned in the National Telecom Plan, the fifth one. So you're right. To be honest, it is important. It's very important, but it's what we are working now on to develop with the relevant stakeholders to make sure that we really address it and for the future.
Okay, and Espen, how does that the benefit the country's perspective?
Yeah, so we did a consultation back a few years ago to check if there is any market interest for a millimeter wave band in Norway. And at that point, I think it was in 2019, there was no clear market demand for it. So we decided not to provide it to the market because there was no need. We will conduct new consultations on that going forward. But so far, it's not been any issues in Norway and no need or requirement for it. It might be related to that we are only a little more than 5 million people in Norway, so it's not kind of the huge city centers. But I'm eager to learn more from Dr. Ali and regarding the long range tests that he have conducted on the 26 gigahertz band, which might be make the 26 gigahertz band more attractable in Norway as well.
Okay, I just noticed that Ofcom are consulting on the 26 and 40 gigahertz in the near term. So then, just quickly, then, a very quick answer, please, from Omantel and Do. Are you looking at network slicing for fixed wireless access? Maybe
yeah. Okay. Yeah. I will start with the 26 first. The 26, as you said clearly, even from the vendor perspective, each vendor has his own strategy. Some of them, they already start developing in the 26. Some of them, they said, there is no business case, there is no requirement. But for us in Omantel, when we push it to test it for two things. First of all, to prove that the 26, it's a band which can be used for the civil, mainly, not only for the normal microwave line of sight. And then we found some use cases where the banks are a bit away from the fiber networks, and they require, for example, the banks, they required 1 gig plus, or the big companies. So instead of going with the fibers and fast deploying, we're starting with the millimeter wavelength. As of now, we test it, but we are trying to inject some real customers on it, but maybe the time is too early. Even the testing equipment, the equipment we got, it's a bit like we got it from the lab of that company. And then in terms of network slicing, yes, we are already now in a discussion with oil field company, where is in Oman, there is an open tender to provide mainly the IoTs and AI and a lot of robotics. They have so many things. So that will be requiring network slicing. That will answer another question of the challenge, where is my colleague from Bahrain talking about the SA. We have the same dilemma here. Shall we continue NSA or shall we go SA? The only problem, if we keep rejecting small businesses which require network slicing NSA, by the end of the year, you will find that you rejected maybe 1,000 small offers. You're looking for the big giant to justify your business in terms of SA. So what we are thinking now, we just go to the SA. It's like we're creating a demand. Create the demand, let the customer come. Otherwise, it will not go fly. This is always happening with the new technologies. So maybe this is an answer for the slicing.
Very good, thank you. Is there a quick answer from Do? No, maybe not. Okay, well, let's hand over now to Julian for the next session from the vendor perspective. Julian, thank you.
Thanks, Joe, and many thanks to the session 2 speakers. It was really, really interesting. So now let's move quickly to this round table. So I would like to invite on the virtual stage James Xu from Fibocom, Neset Yalcinkaya from Quectel, and Alberto Castillero from WNC. Maybe let's just start with a quick introduction. I mean, you can introduce quickly yourself, what you're doing, and what your company is doing with respect to fixed wireless access. Maybe Neset, would you like to start?
Sure. Hi, my name is Neset Yalcinkaya. I am based in San Diego, California. I am in Quectel. It's been about 3 years. I have multiple roles: technical sales lead, product management, as well as I'm running an R&D in Vancouver. So,
thank you. James, do you want to continue?
Yes, this is James from Fibacom, in charge of GTM of FWA. Nice to meet you all. Thank you.
And then Alberto.
Hi, Julian. Thank you. Thank you for the invitation. I am commercial director from WNC. I'm based in Europe, in Spain, and I'm mainly focused on fixed wireless access projects to deploy our solution here in Europe. Thank you.
That's great. So maybe we will start with some sort of follow-up questions based on what we have heard before. So we have seen that 4G, 5G fixed wireless access is developing fast. 4G is a little bit saturating because it's already deployed in so many places, but we see a quick ramp up of 5G. So what, from your perspective, would be the main drivers behind this kind of hype we are seeing today? Is it COVID-19 only? Is it because of the 5G itself? You know, maybe Neset, would you like to start?
Sure. I think, of course, I think it's probably all of the above. I think it's in a simple words. But I mean, when you look at the fixed wireless access, there's multiples of use cases, or let's say device types, that actually constitute a fixed wireless access. CPEs, of course, and gateways, mobile hotspots or Wi-Fi's, routers, fixed wireless phones, video conferencing system, data transmit units, industrial gateways. I mean, a lot of these things are being interchangeably used, but among those all, I think the one that really takes a lot of traction is really the CPEs that provides really fast and cost-effective internet to the homes. And we're also seeing a lot of IoT gateways going forward with the 5G. These are being used in industrial as IoT data aggregators. I think those two really use cases really with this COVID and 5G wide bandwidth and cost-effective per bit per data is actually making these two use cases really stand out and really take off, especially take off in this pandemic and the COVID-19 situation.
Okay. James, do you have something maybe to add, maybe more specific to the 5G itself on a regional basis, on a use case basis as well?
Yes, according to the latest GSA report, there is 213 operators in the world have commercialized 5G network. As the development of the 5G network increased, the application of 5G are quickly developing as well. Among them, 5G smartphone and 5G FWA device would be the top two 5G terminals to be commercialized at scale. Based on the shipment percentage of 5G smartphone, we can see that North America, Europe, and APAC, especially China, are the relative development area of 5G network. However, in China, optical fiber coverage has exceeded 90%. So the FWA service is not the preferred choice. Therefore, we can conclude that the main market of 5G FWA would be North America, Western Europe, Australia, and the Middle East. That's all.
Thank you. Maybe Alberto, just to continue this regional focus, there is a question online asking you specifically, by the way, what kind of regions in Europe you are seeing the biggest take-up for fixed wireless access, and where the growth is coming? I mean, will come. Where is the main growth is expected to come in the coming years?
Well, yeah. Regarding the main trends, Julian, let me add to the previous comments that we see the launch of the 5G itself by a network as one of the main drivers. Okay, for launching fixed wireless access services, and you know we know a few cases and examples of some operators using this very first fixed wireless access the devices. WNC, in fact, is a perfect example because we use one of our very first devices for this kind of launches. And besides of that, obviously, work from home and connecting the unconnected, for example, for rural areas is also important drivers. But we see also how the governments in specific areas, and you were mentioned that, Julian, like Italy is giving funds, as you know, to deliver to deploy millimeter wave solution before the end of the year. So this is also a very important driver, and it's really interesting for CP vendors like WNC to be there to show our solution. But let me also give you a very specific regional example of fixed wireless access deployment, which is how the operators are using the DSL dismantling station to reduce the net depth, and they are replacing this DSL with fixed wireless access services just to provide voice services to this current user from the operator. So this is a perfect example how this fixed wireless access solution is perfect for the operators.
Yeah, we're also seeing like copper decommissioning in Europe. Like we have just the example of the Norway regulator just before, so it's quite a case. Continuing maybe on this 5G topic, there was another question before, and just now a new one is popping in about the price of the 5G CPs, because obviously some regions cannot afford having so much costly devices. So there are questions about when, for example, we could see 5G CPs getting the price of the 4G CP. Is it going to be next year, in 3 years, or in 10 years? Maybe have some color on this. I don't know who wants to take it. Do you want to follow up, Alberto? Or?
Yeah, sure. Well, this is a hard one, Julian. This is a very hard question. On one hand, we know per Simon's slides that we have more and more devices, close to 1,000 devices commercially available. So someone might think that we are close to that moment in which LTE and 5G will be so on the pricing and the shipment rate. But on the other hand, prices are still high compared with LTE, and current economic scenario, don't help to convince final user to invest money on those connectivity needs, which on the other hand could be covered with LTE only, keeping in mind that LTE network are reaching the highest level of maturity, and unlimited plans are being trend these days. So I think we are still far from reaching that moment, Julian.
Yeah, I mean, this is in line with the CP survey we did last year, where I think we had a question on this one, and we said, I think, 90% of the speakers were, the companies that were surveyed said it will happen after 2022, but more importantly, also in the 2024-2025 timeframe. I mean, this is what we will see what we will get this year when we update. Neset, on your side, maybe
go ahead.
Maybe subsidization is an opportunity, maybe, because we are seeing, the public state aid policies in different regions, like in Europe and so on, maybe contributing to having outdoor CPE subsidization type of things to make sure you have the best of breed technology.
That certainly is, of course, is going to play a role, but I also would like to explain a little bit what Alberto said, right? Of course, 5G CPE devices have been expensive today. We don't make the CPs, well, we make the modules, cellular module that goes into CPs, so we can kind of relate. Like first set of modules, how much it was, and now the second generation is coming down in pricing. third generation is going to come down even further. But the other thing is all about scale. So typically, these chipset that goes into handsets and other things would be used in these CPEs. But now there's a more purpose-built chipsets that will be actually have all the peripherals in them to be able to use and build CPEs that will drive more cost optimization. The other thing is about, there's a comparison about LTE and 5G, but we have to make a distinction between LTE and 5G. 5G is a wider bandwidth. LTE has LTE and LTE Advanced and LTE Advanced Pro. LTE Advanced Pro and those type of devices also a bit more expensive, maybe still cheaper than 5G, but it's a lot more expensive than LTE 20 megahertz Cat4.
Yeah. And James, do you want to add something, or maybe we could move to what you maybe Neset just mentioned? This is, about the additional features that are maybe required to get best performance and eventually also lower the cost, because one aspect is the device, the module, the hardware on the end user side, but also the features that these devices are enabling also to reduce the end-to-end cost, because it allows to optimize better the network and so on. So looking at one aspect, maybe on a standalone basis is not so helpful. So what kind of features maybe you think could be of interest? Maybe higher MIMO, carrier aggregation. There was a question about 256 QAM in the panel. So any idea?
Yeah, regarding this topic, we have the following 2 points to share. Firstly, 4x4 MIMO in the low frequency band. As we know, at the beginning stage of the 5G development, operators will choose to use low frequency bands for a better continuous network coverage. However, the biggest challenge of developing low frequency band is a limited bandwidth, which cannot meet the high-speed network experience. Comparing with the traditional 2x2 MIMO technology, 4x4 MIMO can double the maximum data transfer speed, and at the same time, it can improve the receive sensitivity, bringing a better 5G download speed in the low frequency band. And secondly, power class 1.5 of high power user equipment. The introduction of this technology means the maximum transmit power could be up to 29 dBm for band 941 in SA mode, which means 3 dB higher than that of PC2. This can significantly improve the cell edge performance, providing better use experience with wider cellular coverage and higher uplink speed. A new generation of Fibocom 5G module both supports the design of 4x4 MIMO in low frequency band and the PC 1.5. And furthermore, the optimal RF design of the new module can better support rich combination of ENDC. Compared with the former generation, the new module can meet the development needs of customers in the more complex 4G and 5G network environment. And Fibocom is a leading provider of wireless module solution and is optimistic about the market potential of 5G FWA. And please feel free to contact us if you have any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, James. Alberto, is there anything you would like to add? Maybe also on the bands to be supported? I don't know. You mentioned millimeter wave.
Well, when it comes to advanced feature, Julian, we in our different discussion with all our customer, there are always two common issues that appear on top of the table, which are antenna performance and power consumption. In WNC, we develop our in-house antenna solution because we believe that the antenna performance is key for getting a really successful solution in fixed wireless access. So this is precisely what we get from the customer and operator, that they are really interested on the best performance in terms of power consumption and antenna performance. So obviously there are other extra features that we are seeing and we are providing in our solution. For example, self-installation or mobile application installation. This is something that it's quite demanding by other departments, not only technical but also marketing, you know. But yeah, I think to sum up, I think that the antenna performance again and power consumption is key for us.
Maybe Neset, I'm sure you have plenty of things to add as well from your perspective.
Well, I mean, I completely agree with James and Alberto. But on top to add on top of that is basically some of the things that people are looking for is higher order receiver diversity. This is going to increase the user experience, right? You're going to get a better average throughput because your signal is going to get better. The other thing is that people are going to look forward going forward. Cost is a big issue right now with the 5G. So people are going to start looking for good, better, and best kind of performance to be able to tier it down. And as James said, higher order modulation, higher order MIMO, all those things are extremely important going forward with these performance related, especially for mobile broadband devices like fixed wireless and so.
Maybe, you know, as always, we are trying to improve performance and so on. But I think one key issue as well is to make sure that the end-to-end performance is achieved. So how do you manage this part? So last event, we had the GCF president participating. So certification maybe is one way to try to address those issues. Or we have heard from GSA Bahrain that there are some millimeter wave field tests and so on. So how do you manage this interoperability testing thing? Who want to take this question? Who want to start? I don't know. Albert?
Well, me, for example. Okay. So this is a very good question, Julian, because end-to-end performance, as you know, is key. And in that front, to ensure that our device is working properly in production, you know, there are some areas and regions all around the world that are particularly like a nightmare, especially Europe, where we have in a very small area, we have hundreds of networks. So network interoperability is a challenge here in Europe. That's why it's so important to do interoperability tests with the RAN before, you know, deploying the product. But also on-site testing is really important to know the final customer network. This is also very, very important. And finally, in WNC, we are investing a lot in software. We believe that, you know, software, extra value software services for fixed wireless access is key, precisely to ensure this end-to-end connectivity and how to provide to the customer what is the performance of their devices in production in the right moment of time when they need it. So I think we can do this kind of solution, and they are very well received by customer.
James, Neset, would you like to add something?
Yeah. What I would add is I agree with you. The performance is very important, and certification is actually providing minimum performance that you have to achieve to make sure that it will work per standard, and it will be it will work with the networks around the world. Second thing is the overall performance. I mean, the standard provides minimum performance, but the antenna is very important. That's why in Quackdal we're investing a lot into antenna, and we're actually providing antenna. We can take our antennas and test with our module to make sure that it's completely optimal for all the bands that is supported. And the other thing is the optimizing the antenna. It's just not everything is being created equal, so you have to make sure that it's being optimized for the bands to support. And the other thing is on top of it is beyond the regular certification, there's carrier certification that we go through and make sure that the throughput requirements that they put together is actually achieved. Those are typically take a longer time, and if you have a very good R&D team as well as the certification team, you will make sure that they will go through that smoothly and provide a good solution for customers.
Very good. James, do you have anything you would like to add on this topic?
Not yet. Thank you.
Okay. So I'm really sorry, guys, but we are already like 7 minutes after what was supposed to be the end of the meeting. So I would like to thank you very much for your participation, and obviously for having sponsored the event. Without you, we would have not been able to have the meeting today. So many thanks again to the three of you. I would like now to thank you, Alberto. I would like to hand over maybe to John for the final closing. John Yasle.
Thank you, Julian. I think we had a very good and different perspectives that we listened today. So from a regulatory point of view, I think we heard a lot of things, but I think one of the key messages is really to incorporate 4G and 5G fixed wireless access as part of broadband policies. We see clear benefits of adding that to national broadband plans. I think the fast time to market, really we heard about that. And also about the lower cost to roll out than fiber, especially in low density areas or rural areas, difficult areas to serve. Also that these deployments leverage existing infrastructure. There's a lot of towers already built. And also not only you bring connectivity for those that don't have or are underserved, but you can also bring competition to the broadband market, which is typically one of the also key points for regulatory authorities. Then I think also to relate about when you bring that high performance 5G to those rural areas, you're going to also improve the mobile broadband experience, but also open for other use cases like Industry 4.0, smart agriculture, or other type of business solutions. So really recommendation to include fixed wireless as part of the national broadband plans, to have really agnostic and spell out fixed wireless as one of the tools to address that, to make eligible funding for both active and passive infrastructure. I think that is a very important. Sometimes government plans are only for passive infrastructure, but I think funding the active is very important. We also see some incentives around adoption, both for adding CPEs, but also for CPE installation, some vouchers. I think that is increasingly popular. So I think that's a very good tool as well. Then I think also to see that 5G is going to help address both the mobile and fixed digital divide. So it's in a way one investment that addresses two market failures. So I think that is important, and even think about maybe mixed or shared type of solutions where we address both areas. And I think the example from Norway, it's a very interesting, where you use the spectrum auction, which is a mobile type of investment, to address the fixed broadband market failure through fixed wireless. And then last but not least, to really have realistic broadband targets, and I think realistic and asymmetric. I think very important to have what is the broadband definition. I again point to, I think Norway had a very good case about 110 megabit per second, but also as you invest on 5G, this is a technology that is upgradable to gigabit speeds in the future. So I think that's very important. Then just to round up again, fixed wireless is needed to close the digital divide. The need for fast and reliable broadband has never been greater, and COVID-19 has really shown us that. This need is very acute now as the pace of digitalization is increasing. So really, we cannot have some of the homes difficult to serve to be left behind. Multiple technologies are really needed to close that digital divide, and fixed wireless is a complement to fiber opportunities. It's a future-proof technology, and there's a lot of new innovations coming in where we leverage the scale of the 3GPP ecosystem and these innovations across the ecosystem. I think we have some very interesting cases, like I mentioned, including, let's say, millimeter wave that is going to be a tool for the future, as mentioned by Omantel. And also, I mean, fixed wireless will help to bring 5G rollout to broader areas that will also benefit additional use cases. So I think this is a little bit to round up this plenary session that we had. And I pass back to Richard to close out the event. So thank you again for attending.
Thank you, John. And thank you again to everyone for joining us today, and particularly to our speakers and our sponsors. Particular shout out to Dan, who joined us from East Coast America, and Nesset, who joined us from West Coast America at whatever hour of the day that is. I don't know. Your commitment to the cause is without par, so thank you very much. The full event recording will be shared with you immediately after this event. The full presentation deck will be available for download in about 4 minutes from gsacom.com. So please do check back on the website for all the information shared today. You'll also be able to access it via the YouTube channel and via the webinars landing page on the GSA website. For further updates on GSA events and our reports, please do follow us on our social channels on Twitter, LinkedIn, WeChat, and on Weibo. If you're interested in joining the Fixed Wireless Access Forum, please do contact Julian and John on the email address shown on your screen. And similarly, if you're interested in more information about the GSA itself, joining as an associate and accessing some of the data in the Gambods database, which Simon shared today, again, please do get in touch. And with that, many thanks and have a great day. Thank you.
Technological innovations promote development. Intelligence connects everything. Wireless communication technologies will achieve multi-connectivity. As the 5G era unfolds, the advent of smart cities will exceed our wildest imagination. A new era of Internet of Things, IoT, is coming. QuickTel modules and cloud products allow intelligent devices to collect and transmit information and develop omnipresent interconnectivity. Real-time comprehensive intelligent detection, alarms, and high-speed information transmission facilitate smooth communication between people and objects and between multiple objects. This is the result of a collaborative effort between a large number of QuickTel products. Connect with the whole world from one place. An intelligent and interconnected life is just around the corner. QuickTel, building a smarter world.
Technology is advancing daily, and the internet continues to transform our lives. Over the past 2 decades, we've strived to be a leading ODM and JDM industrial brand in the broadband communications, multimedia, and IoT industries by satisfying the needs of our customers. We continue to innovate, building upon our core technology capabilities in RF and antenna design and system integration, capitalizing on growth momentum in the market, offering the market unique solutions, and defining clear technology and product development roadmaps enable us to gain a stable footing in the global communications market. In this IoT era driven by hardware and software integration, we will continue to provide innovative solutions. We'll lead you to the next decade of communications.